Despite the fact that most of us are reticent to tell our stories of self, most all of us, um, we sometimes hear as we begin to work with people in different cultures and different countries, um, oh, that's an American thing. Americans are talking about themselves all the time. Well, it may be the perception of the world. It's certainly, uh, not the case. But what's interesting is that the claim is always made in our culture, we would never do that. The first place we did a lot of work outside the U.S. was in the U.K. with the NHS. And we heard right away, no, Brits will never talk about themselves. It's all stiff upper lip, and, we don't do that. That kind of lasted for about 5 minutes. By creating a space and a place in which people could actually felt authorized to do that, it turned out to be a very powerful grounding, not only for themselves, but for each other as they began to learn about each other in ways that they discovered shared values that they didn't even have a clue existed, even though people that had worked together for a long time. The next place was Jordan, and we were told in Amman, oh no, in the Arab world, people will not talk about themselves. And our first workshop there, there was a guy who was an environmental activist. He was organizing to protect the environment, and he claimed to have no story. And then he came back the next day and he said, "I found my story." I said, "Well, okay, well, share. What was your story?" He said, "Well, I grew up in this village where my father had olive trees, and he loved the trees. They were like the pride of his life. And in the Quran, in battle, you're supposed to both spare the innocent and the trees." Well, one day the bulldozers came to our village and tore down all the trees. My father fell on his back, tears coming from his eyes. And at that moment, I knew I had to save the trees. It's a hell of a story. He got a big applause. That was a reality moment that he was able to share that helped all of us understand so much more about who this person was. And we've had similar experiences in China and in Japan and in the Balkans and so forth. We have deep richness within us. At some level, we want to be seen, we want to be recognized, and we want to be able to fully see the others with whom we work and with whom we live and work. Because if we do that, we'll discover commonalities of experience and values that we suspect aren't there, but in fact are, because we're all human beings.